Hello, everybody. We're going to talk just for a few minutes about finding God's purpose in a crisis. When things suddenly change, it can plunge us into a crisis. COVID-19 has done just that. We have gone from freedom to lockdown, from mingling to social distancing, from profit to loss, fortunes to furlough, from calm to crisis. There is a story in the Bible in the book of Esther. It tells us that in a matter of hours, the situation had dramatically changed for the Jews living in the province of Shushan in the Persian Empire. They lived in relative freedom. Then suddenly, they were plunged into a crisis. A death decree had been passed to execute all the Jews in one day. A decree fueled by Haman, an official of King Ahasuerus. He wanted to destroy the Jews because Mordecai, who was a Jew, refused to bow to him and treat him as a little god. Haman fooled the king into believing that the Jews were a rebellious people, a threat to the kingdom, and should be destroyed. So they signed the decree, and very quickly the situation for the Jews had changed from calm to crisis. Feel the panic. Feel the dread and fear that had gripped the community. Since this pandemic, the situation has changed drastically for millions. Many who have, for most of their lives, taken the task of breathing for granted are now hooked up to respirators, fighting for every breath. Companies that were expecting significant profits this year are now faced with the reality that their survival is in question. Families that were looking forward to weddings, birthday celebrations, and anniversaries are now planning funerals. Now, when the situation suddenly changed for the Jews, Mordecai decided to dress himself in sackcloth and ashes, and he went crying in the streets, hoping to attract the attention of someone who could change their fate. He appealed to Esther, who had become the queen of Persia, and appealed to her to beg the king for mercy on behalf of her people. At first, she was quite reluctant. You see, there was a law that if anyone would approach the king without being summoned, that person would be put to death. They would be killed. And Esther was not prepared to lose her life. She told Mordecai that for the past 30 days, even though she is the queen, the king had not even summoned her to his chambers. So she was not prepared to take the risk. When Mordecai heard it, he was disappointed. And he sent back word to Esther. And he said to Esther, "You cannot afford to keep silent. If you keep silent, deliverance will come to the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will be destroyed." But who knows? This might be the very purpose for which you were called to the kingdom at this time. Esther reconsidered. She came to her senses and mustered the courage, overcame her fears, and went into the king and pleaded for her people. Her efforts were successful. The lives of her people were spared. Esther fulfilled God's purpose for her life in a time of crisis. What might God's purpose for us be in this crisis? We're on lockdown. We're faced with this pandemic. Now, many of us may not be asked to put our lives on the line like Esther. God may be asking us just to do the basics. What might the basics be? It might be to just call someone. Many are finding it so difficult to cope during this lockdown situation. Many are experiencing loneliness, anxiety, and fear. Let's reach out to them with words of encouragement and even a prayer, doing just the basics. Sometimes it may mean supporting a local charity, distributing food to families that are struggling to make ends meet, just doing the basics. We learned this week how Captain Moore, a war veteran, had decided to come up with this basic plan of raising monies for the NHS charities. He had planned to walk in his garden 100 laps each day until his 100th birthday. He was 99. And his aim was to raise just £1,000. His efforts caught the attention of the world, and he was able to raise over £29 million for charity. Just doing the basics. My prayer is that even during this crisis, like Esther, God will help us to find our purpose. I wish that this would become our prayer. Lord, help me to find my purpose in this crisis. May God richly bless you as you discover your purpose for the cause of God.